Morning. Welcome back to Ohrmundt. This is Chris. All right, it's Saturday morning, and we are off and rolling. Today, I think we might actually be able to bale a little bit of second crop. We've got was about 9-10 acres down by the pit field, and then just right across the drive here, we have that little 2-acre chunk next to the neighbor's house. So we made it down to the shop. We are going to sharpen the knives on the New Holland 1411 disc bind because Dad nicked a few rocks. There was one. I was riding along with him, only 2 laps, and he hit one, and it just and like the whole thing skipped up. So yeah, she needs a little touch up. But yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. And we have a few spare knives if one's totally botched up. So let's get this in place and get set up and start sharpening them up. Yeah, there's a couple down here that need a little touch up. Like this guy right here. Yeah, a little rough. Yeah, so let's get the grinder, get a vice grips, and start touching them out. All right, so how do we sharpen our blades when we're not doing everything else like we did at the beginning of haying season? Take a vice grips, we clip it right back here, so that way as we're pushing on this blade, it can't fully rotate, okay? And then we just take the grinder and smooth up that edge. That should be just fine. Where are we going here? Oops. I knocked you guys over. Alright, we got all the knives touched up. They're not perfect, but definitely better than when I started. That's for sure. A little bit of fuel in the tractor and we should be ready to go. All right, we made it to 2030. Rake's hooked up. We greased it up pretty good before we used it the last time. So we should be ready to rock and roll. Let's get down there and start on some second crop. So the only thing we need to watch out for is how wide the rows are. This is obviously thinner than first crop. So are those 2 rows going to come together and at least touch? I think I'm actually going to widen them out a little bit. They're coming plenty close enough. If they were just a little bit wider, one, it helps with the pickup. We don't have to we won't have to weave as much, and plus it'll keep more hay from the bottom on top on the surface. All right, 2 cranks on the turnbuckle on each side. Let's see how that looks. nice and green. The field that we were thinking of picking, but after looking at it a little closer, we might chop this one because it's like an acre and a half bigger, and the cobs seem a little bit smaller. So we might chop this guy and then pick the one up by mom and dad's. There we go, about 13 acres raked up and looks pretty decent. Now that stuff is gonna sit there. What is it, 12:30? And we really don't have plans to bale that until probably about 3 o'clock. We're gonna let that sit, dry out. It's pretty sunny out here, a little bit of clouds around, but yeah, that's gonna sit for 3 hours, give or take, and then we'll try out the baler. And hopefully nothing breaks any further than it did. So yeah, we gotta grease that up and oil the crap out of the chains. We do have to put the wind guard back on. That's pretty easy. It's just 2 cotter pins, but so yeah, we'll probably get that going about 2 o'clock because it'll probably take us an hour or whatever to get that set up, and yeah, good to go. Bale some second crop. Looks like my starter for my lawnmower came, so I think I'm gonna go take a little bit of a lunch break, and then Dad should be finishing up cutting here in the next half hour, 45 minutes, and then he'll take a break. I'll go put that starter on. Hopefully that solves my problem. All right, so we're back at the shop. I'm gonna fire up the 4430 and back the baler up in front of the shop here and start greasing it, oiling it, and honestly I gotta check twine. I don't know how much twine we have. All right, so we're just gonna let the tractor run while we do this, let it get nice and warmed up. And also, since the battery was dead, my fault. It did start decent the last time we used it, or the last time I ran it and brought it over here, but we'll just let her keep running, make sure it's charged up good. Okay, that bearing is sealed, but I also there's some junk in here that I want to clean out, and I want it all nice and open when we start oiling chains, just to make sure that we're not missing any weird sounds or something. We ran it just a little bit earlier, but you know, always good to check again. So everything is greased except for the 2 clutches, slip clutches on the rollers. This guy just has to be rotated a little bit, and then this guy, that Zerk for whatever reason falls out like twice a year, and it's, I don't know if it's because we grabbed the wrong thread technically or what, but whatever, we got more. All right, everything is greased up, got that new Zerk on there, got it as snug as I feel comfortable with. It is time to oil up all the chains. Like I've stated before, we just use 80-90 gear oil. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. That's what we've always used on our balers, and it works pretty decent. They've survived. If you guys use something different, let me know what you guys use. I've heard people use anywhere from like WD-40 brand chain lube to like a dry chain lube, kind of like bikes do. You know, just everybody has their preference. What do you guys use on your baler chains, or just any chains in general? She sounds like she always has. I will admit that probably one downfall to using this stuff is that it does collect more garbage, but If it works, it works. Get on going, photo. Let's go, kiddo. So I'm guessing these guys are pretty happy and they found the mineral bucket. Honestly, they've only been without mineral for like 4 days. But yeah, these guys are doing real well. You know, and what I really like is you take Goggle Gergs' calf versus this 10 heifer. Now granted, it's heifer versus steer. 10 usually has some pretty big calves, but I think 10 is a month older than Goggle Gergs' steer. So, a lot of red, a lot of red. Trust me, Dad reminds me, there's a lot of red out there. Well, here we go. Find out if she works. Have started nice and it's picking up nice. This is definitely thin enough you can hit another gear, and the rows are a little bit narrower. He'll probably have to do a little bit of bobbing and weaving, but it shouldn't be too bad. Let's see how big this thing is. A little smaller. I may have gone the wrong way. I actually set it a little bit bigger. Let's not tell Dad that. He'll find out in a couple weeks when the video comes out. Alright, let's see what this one turns out like. Dad thinks it's going to be too big. Don't look bad at all. Alright, we're gonna stick with 55. Yeah, just a little concerned that they might be a little too big, but well, that's not too bad. I mean, it's not the 70-70 solid, but that's still a pretty decent bale. Well, unless something major happens while we're doing second crop, looks like the RBX 451 back in action. So, seems to be feeding nice. The bales seem decent. They're not as dense as what Zernicke's had made for us, but that's to be expected. So what Dad thought would be a good idea, and I was thinking the same thing, is this guy. Is hooking a tractor up to it and letting her spin, see what happens. But first, in this little corner right here, this one right there, there's a hornet's nest right on the other side of that thing. We thought there might have been. I sprayed some water on it, and like 2 minutes later, there's like 4 massive hornets flying around that sucker. So Dad's like, hey, go to the garage. There's some new cans of spray. So we're gonna kill some hornets. Honestly, I don't really think I'm gonna kill them because they're behind that shield. But, you know, hey, we're gonna have some fun. And it's the foam stuff, so it looks cool. Okay, we got her moved. But now what I did is I found an empty squeeze bottle and filled it with some waste oil. basically what we're going to do is be hitting the chains with it. We get pretty liberal with it, things like that, but then we kind of just, I'm just trying to get a little bit on it right now before I even start it up. And just gathering chains is what we use our waste oil on. We throw a bunch into that slide, even though into the sickle. Yes, that's an extremely liberal amount, but you know, it still serves a purpose. You know, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Well, she spun over a little bit. The way that clutch works is once you engage it, it kind of will, and you shut it off, that head, that cut and throw head, will keep spinning. And that's really the biggest spot that I wanted to double check, that there wasn't something that was gonna, like, it was seized up or something was catching in there. There's just some junk in there. So we'll see if we'll spit it out or not. So far, not bad. For not being started up for, I don't know, 6 years. It's not too shabby. But it does look like I got everything oiled up. All the chains are oiled up nice. Everything seems to be moving. I think I gotta grease up the knuckle for the pivot. So for today, this guy is done. That's nice to get this thing pretty close. If we can get the knife sharpened, maybe just double check a couple chain tensions and things like that. I don't think I'm gonna record anymore because honestly, I'm almost out of battery. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Good morning. All right, Sunday morning. I think on the dock for today, one of us is gonna ted, one of us is gonna cut the oats behind mom and dad's. And then hopefully I might end up tedding the stuff. There's a field just kitty corner from that real nice field on top of the hill. And we'll probably ted that one out today too. So Dad has plenty of hay to bale tomorrow. All right, so Dad's coming up with the disc spine. And here's the oats field. I don't know what happened right here. Do not know whatever. It doesn't matter. There definitely is some clover in here, but we're not cutting all the way down, so a lot of that clover won't get cut. But looking out on the field, there is still some haze of green out there, which is nice, but there's also a little bit of weeds coming in. Most of that's fairly grassy weeds. So honestly, amongst the oats, that'll turn out nice. Alright, so some of the oats is okay, some of it's really crappy, and some of it's halfway decent. Unfortunately, with tedding, it has now become a slow process where with raking, you know, we can clip off 2 rows at a time and we can book it. Cutting, we can move along pretty good with that disc spine. And then, you know, baling is what it is. We use round bales, and whether it's rounds or squares, it's still a heck of a lot nicer than little squares. But basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to fluff the hay up, because over time, over the last 2 days, it's kind of gotten matted down, and we're trying to pick that back up to get some air underneath it and let air go through it. Puts a whole new spin on the phrase lift and separate. So yeah, it works here too. And as you look at the different rows, the row I'm on right now compared to the row to the left or the right, which has been tedded already, you can definitely see how matted down this row is and why we want to lift it up. We got a nice breeze today. We want to let that breeze get in there and dry this stuff out. So the one nice thing, the one nice thing about tedding is it doesn't matter how you do it, because whatever you drive on, you can drive all over on these rows, zigzag, doesn't matter. Wherever you drive, it's getting fluffed up. So it looks like it's doing a nice job for the speed and RPM that I'm going. We're getting, looks like when I look back, we're getting a lot of lift, and it's laying it back down. So and we got a nice breeze. Sun's kind of in and out, but we do have a nice breeze up here. So I think it's gonna turn out nice. Dad might have some baling ahead of him tomorrow. We gotta find some twine though. All right, so we're done tedding. We got that first field done. That took us literally 2 hours. But when I got to the next field, because it's just kitty corner from it, it's like 90% dry, so it didn't pay to go through and ted it out, because that one would have taken me another hour and a half. But it's probably for the better anyways, because that spring where Dad broke the head off the threaded rod, yeah, the spring broke now. So, great. So the important stuff for the day is done. We got that field tedded. We got the field tedded. Dog's going berserk. He wants to come outside. It's like 85 degrees and he lays in the sun. You know, it's not like he's hairless, you know. He's just dumb. But we got that field tedded. That was most important. That second field didn't need it. Dad did break the spring on the disc spine. We got that apart, so we're ready for when we get a new spring. All right, so I just fed out a bale. They don't need a bale. I mean, they could graze overnight and be happy. Like they were kind of chill before I even came out here. I mean, there's still a fair amount of grass out here that they can go after, but again, I'm trying to just extend things out. And honestly, they'll eat it. They're gonna like it. I like this dude right here. That's that bold ruler bull. Yeah, and I think, you know, like bulls like him, he's not the biggest bull out here. That's a mic drop bull calf. I think we get him on feed. I mean, he's solid, but I think we get him on feed and he's gonna turn out pretty good. And then there's the mystery man right here, this eagle bull, who looks good. Again, like that mic drop, this eagle is also out of a first calf heifer. All right, so we're coming to the end of the day, end of the video. Got the cows fed. All I gotta do is give the steers a couple of buckets of feed, and then they're done. Then I'm gonna head over to Fleet, see if they got any baler twine for us. If not, might be going up to Tractor Supply. We'll see. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you guys have a good week coming up. Hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Supports the channel, especially if you're a new visitor. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thanks for coming along.